Blah! Heroes in 2B Hero X are a lot like businesses. In fact, they are business moguls. They're massive. Whether you're a burger flipper or a doctor, somewhere out there in the world is someone qualified for the position who, if given the chance, will take your position. In this universe, that replacement is a lot more literal. However, the premise still stands. This is Yang Ken. As a child, he had to watch both his parents face the blicky and almost got kidnapped to be sold on the dark Etsy. Kinda like Batman. That is until our veteran hero Esol comes to save the day. Anyways, 16 years later, Esol's a bum washed up hero. After a 34-year career in the top 10 hero ranking due to a fight that happened, Esol lost his arm and he's never fighting again. Or so he would like to think, because his job depends on it. Due to his inactivity, people be doubting my boy's legacy. Meanwhile, Al Cal victim is in his college year, doing his best to pick up a baddie with some concert tickets. She ain't dating no bum though. Luckily, Yang Ken has a job as a mascot with no pay. He's also secretly been working this no-pay job that he just landed for 3 years. But if this goes well, he can land a spot at Esol's 34th anniversary party and finally get to meet his favorite hero. Deep under the surface, however, the executives at Esol Enterprises have set this whole event up to find Esol's replacement. The main criteria is how much the public trusts you. That determines a hero's strength in this world. After Yang Chen lost his parents, he's at 0 his whole life. So surprised, he doesn't get the job. His bosses ain't having that though. What do you think he should do? Make a phone call to Esol Enterprises for a second chance at glory? Or call some ex-felons to kidnap his crush's kid?
Yeah, I agree. Let's call the felons. So after the super villain Trashmobile gets stopped by our superhero's super not trash bike, we're at the final fight. One skinny cosplayer versus 2 ex-felons. Yeah, he gets his butt handed to him, okay? Like, come on, he tried. However, his gloves, he put tasers in them the night before. So, all of a sudden, he tases him, and that kid they kidnapped was like, "Oh my god, you're the real Esol!" And his trust value went up to 1. Yeah, 1 point of trust gave these felons the beating of their lives. And Yang Chen's boss couldn't be more happy. Because of his heroic acts, he became viral. People love this new Esol. They love him more. He's younger, he showed his face, his trust value is now higher than the total views on my channel. Maybe if I get good at anime videos, I could replace one of your favorite creators, just like Esol was replaced. However, Esol Enterprises are taking a poop on their own porch right now. New Esol has taken 1% of old Esol's total fan base. So they could either sue the new Esol or pretend it doesn't matter. So unrealistically, the billion-dollar company based in South Korea's capital decides not to sue. Instead, they let him do his thing. No way the kid old Esol saved from a kidnapping would steal his job, right? Wrong! As we speak, he's about to pull another public trust heist. At this point, Mans is the lowest of the low, just like many celebrities today, who might have filled the shoes of old ones in the past. Now there are 2 Esols. All that is left is to eliminate the old Esol. However, don't let a bum-ass tiny channel like me tell you what to do and that you're replaceable, okay? In this show, there's an example where you can be more than a replacement. Meet Lu Zhang. He's also a fanboy, but not of some lame hero. He is instead a fanboy of a lame hero's baby mama. But the hero nice? Bro didn't even want this arranged marriage situation. He came up right in front of Lu Zhang and jumped off a building, trusting that Lu Zhang can become the nice that he never was. So boom, he commits full damage, leaves his trust in him, and Lu Zhang slowly starts to turn into nice. However, for the price of adopting Nice's position, he also gets to adopt his problems. See, behind the camera, Nice and his girl despise each other. Okay, maybe it's only her that despises him. However, the premise stands. Lu Zhang is put into a position where even his own personality is being swayed by who the public views Nice as. But so is Moon. However, Moon is very self-aware for a hero's sidekick. Even though she should be affected by the public image and trust as well, personality shift has somehow not affected her. I want you guys to question why. Nice's manager though, she's a cruel and sadistic woman. She forces both Nice and Moon to be in a relationship, just to uphold a public image. Because I guess she's one of those career ladder people. That's how we get to this interview. The only way to convince the public that he is indeed nice is if they can get through this interview smooth sailing. However, the bookworm known as Enlightener, who used to be a hero himself, has somehow become their interviewer by blackmailing the last one. I'll let you in on a little something. Do not do an interview with a superhuman who unironically calls himself the Eye of Truth. Those are what I call interrogations. You just know he hates lying rats, and sitting in front of him is the 2-meal Michelin star dining you'll only find in the deep sewers of New York. Nice's manager is rightfully freaking out. Enlightener starts with the wildest question about Moon that not even she would know, and he directs it towards Nice. How many commercials has Moon starred in? Well, maybe if Enlightener researched a teeny weeny bit harder, he could have figured out that before Liu Zhang became a hero, his power was fully invested in being Moon's #1 fanboy. Not only does he know the commercials, he actually knows the runtime down to the very last second. He literally made the commercials. Nice's biggest feat didn't even come from superpowers and having a high trust value. It came from the fact he is the world's most delusional follower. However, it's still not enough. Ms. J, the tough manager I talked about earlier, still thinks that the public doesn't trust them. So, she had them locked in a room together until they agreed to marry each other. And you know how much Moon hates Nice. But Nice uses his knowledge of the public image when he was an advertising guy to come up with a plan. And that plan is, we have an arch nemesis to get in the way of the marriage. Now we have the stereotypical, I object, I love him more scene. Arch Nemesis, however, hasn't been updated on the fact that the new Nice is a fake Nice who is actually really nice. And Nemesis is here to figure it out. So he tries to have a serious one-on-one conversation, but Moon's power to be by Nice's side at all times is getting in the way of Nice and its Arch Nemesis' relationship, okay? The audience is confused. Usually it's the bad guy that goes for the girl, not the other way around. The manager threatens to fire the nemesis, so he decides to take his husbando to the sky view tower of his own creation. Now they can finally have a private conversation. And that private conversation, he basically tells him that the original Nice unalived himself. Then we get a tragic backstory that apparently they were best friends. That was the only bond that the original Nice and the Nemesis ever had, so Moon was meaningless. Now might be a good time to mention that the two characters I've talked about have a very strong link. But let's just focus on this video. What does Arch Nemesis decide to do? He also commits fall damage, and he's not coming back. Mr. Eye of Truth is losing it after getting humiliated during the interview. He finally figured it out by doing a teeny bit of research that I mentioned earlier. But he has no trust, so he can't expose him. Yeah, I don't get it either. I guess show, movie. If fiction was that simple, we would never have the evil robot eyes coming in for the evil-eyed truth guy. Now, Brody is filled with the power called fear from these little robots. The Eye of Truth apparently kidnaps Moon on live broadcast to all of his fans, starts calling himself the God Eye, and has all the information to dismantle Nice's card house of lies. Nice starts running to the tower God Eye and Moon are at, but his fans don't want him to go. Don't go! Miss J calls in a hero called the Blankster to stand in his place. His ability is to punch people till they can't remember, like normal punches. Did I take a poop this morning? Why can't I remember? Why? Starts working well for him for a little bit, until God Eye decides to broadcast his dirty laundry. Now the public hates him, and then Miss J, and they're like, oh, we gotta cut off the broadcast. And they're like, what did we put on instead? A random commercial, which just so happened to be Ling Ling's commercial. With that inspiration, Nice, he's trying to power through the entire public telling him not to go. And he does find a way, by believing in his own stuff, turning him back into that OG Ling Ling. My boy finally gets to the battlefield. The people know the truth. Ling Ling lost all his trust. However, the last one who hasn't lost trust is Ling Ling himself. He hasn't given up. He tries to fight God's Eye with no trust, no powers, and gets absolutely battered. This is when Ling Ling pulls out the speech of a lifetime. Anybody can be a hero.
Ling Ling might have been the fake nice, but he was the nice that would give his life up for Moon. In the memory of Naruto, he goes in with a headbutt, but instead of friendship, he uses power of love and he starts to piece up God's Eye, and his robots mysteriously stop working for a little bit. That don't matter though. God's Eye is now using them as rocks like the caveman he is. The fans of Nice and Moon start cheering on Ling Ling. His trust starts to skyrocket. The world is now watching an ordinary man with the power of trust destroy fear. So unlike Esol, Nice never had to replace a guy. Well, he did, but he got out of it. And that is probably why Esol came and murked his girl out of pettiness. Yeah.